This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll explore and feel Musso and Frank Grill, followed by an interview with wonderful Andrea Scuto, who will share with us what it feels like to work at this iconic old Hollywood restaurant.
As you can see, Musso and Frank, it's kind of the epicenter of a certain cultural life during the 40s and the 50s. And then the golden era of Hollywood explodes. So all the stars, for example, we have the Marilyn Monroe booth that is called Marilyn Monroe booth because she sat there. There was a booth when she came in.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to feel the soul of Musso and Frank Grill? Snuggled amidst the glitz and glamour of the entertainment capital, right on Hollywood Boulevard, there stands a timeless institution that has witnessed the rise and fall of stars, the ebbs and flows of history, and the evolution of a city. Welcome to Musso and Frank Grill, a cherished landmark that has been an emblem of elegance and sophistication since its inception. It was in 1919 when Joseph Musso and Frank Toulet first established this haven of culinary mastery. The roaring 20s were in full swing, and Musso and Frank Grill quickly became a magnet for the era's most prominent figures, actors, directors, writers, and other luminaries of the silver screen. From the glimmering days of the golden age of cinema to the turbulent times of wars and social upheavals, Musso and Frank Grill has remained an enduring symbol of continuity. As Tinseltown's elite gathered there, it became a hub of creativity and inspiration where ideas were born, deals were struck, and friendships flourished. From Rudolph Valentino, Greta Garbo, Charlie Chaplin, Betty Davis, Frank Sinatra, and Marilyn Monroe to Ernest Hemingway and Scott Fitzgerald, to name just a few, the restaurant's rich history is palpable, as if the very essence of the past is embedded in every nook and cranny. Dark wood paneling, original wallpaper, red leather banquettes, and softly glowing scones envelope you in the ambience of a certain mystique, and you're instantly transported to a bygone era where the aroma of sizzling steaks mingles with the whispers of intimate conversations and extravagant celebrations echoing within protective walls. With an unwavering commitment to exceptional service and culinary expertise, Musso and Frank Grill's menu is a treasure trove of delightful classics. In the ever-changing landscape of Hollywood and the world beyond, the menu has gone virtually unchanged for more than 100 years and still showcases signature dishes that have stood the test of time. From the beloved chicken pot pie to the mouth-watering New York strip steak, lobster thermidor, and grilled lamb kidneys with bacon, each bite is a tribute to the rich heritage of this venerable establishment. The impeccable service, the sublime flavors, and the air of refined grandeur all combine to create an experience that transcends the boundaries of time. Musso and Frank Grill is so much more than just a restaurant. It's a portal to the enchanting spirit of old Hollywood, a place where the past and present intertwine harmoniously. So, whether you're an ardent cinephile, a lover of culinary excellence, or simply an admirer of history, allow yourself to be transported to a place where legends were made and memories are crafted, one delectable bite at a time. And here we are. Welcome to Musso and Frank Grill. I'm so delighted to have Andrea Scuto here with me. Andrea has the honor to serve as the general manager for Musso and Frank Grill and has been with the company since 2018. He considers Musso's the pinnacle of his career as a restaurateur. Andrea Scuto was born and raised in Rome, Italy, and moved to Los Angeles in 2006. Interestingly enough, Andrea's background is in music. He used to be a professional guitarist, and very early on in his life, he studied anthropology. He really wanted to play guitar, but his dad told him there was no way unless he graduated from the university at the same time and unless he learned wine. Thus, at the tender age of 16, Andrea was sent to a very famous enoteca, a wine store that had a resident French sommelier, and followed his classes because he really wanted to play guitar. Once guitar and music became Andrea's main profession, the learning curve flattened, and being a very curious person, he turned his curiosity to food and wine. Andrea had always been the one in his grandma's kitchen, trying to steal cooking tips and learn how to make things. He also enrolled in a professional cooking class at a very prestigious school in Rome, studying for a year all basic techniques that really helped him become a better cook, allowing to work in a few restaurants to get school credits and consulting, and later on to develop wine programs. During all of this, Andrea kept traveling for his music business and ended up coming to LA pretty often. Andrea loved it so much that after more than a decade, he abandoned his music career and focused on hospitality. Andrea ended up working all stations, tending bar, serving and being a captain, a sommelier, and then wine director. Later in his career, he learned how to manage, how to deal with multiple operations, how to open a wine bar based on his concept, and kept learning and learning. Andrea judged wine competitions and took part in some of them, learned how to make wine and consult with different organizations. The experience at Musso's has been exciting, humbling, intense, and full of incredible people. From the 40-year-old tenured staff, both in the dining room and in the kitchen, to Chef JP and Danilo, Mark and his dad John, and the rest of the family, the wonderful regular guests, some of whom Andrea had already known for a long time, and they were happy to see him in their favorite restaurant. And then the food. Andrea's favorite is having a tender filet mignon broiled on their 1930s grill under hot flaming mesquite charcoal from their grill master and served au jus to maintain the steak texture with a side of their legendary creamed spinach, their chicken pot pie, prime rib. Well, the menu is too long and delicious to list. You need to come and try it. Long-lasting relationships. This is what Andrea's job is all about. And that's the best part of what he does. Andrea will share with us what it feels like to work at Musso and Frank Grill. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I am great, thank you.
You cannot believe I'm so excited to have you as my guest today to talk about this iconic Hollywood restaurant, Musso and Frank Grill.
Yeah, absolutely. Musso and Frank, it's one of LA's treasures.
It is. So what does it feel like to actually manage this treasure?
Well, it's a very humbling experience. Musso and Frank is not just a restaurant, right? It's been here for 104 years, and it's been through a lot of different eras in this particular city that it's very well known to like new, to tore down old, and to renew things. And Musso has resisted for many, many years. So when I was called upon managing and, kind of taking care of this beautiful property, I was a little bit intimidated, obviously. But the family that owns it, they're so nice and they're so welcoming that it was pretty simple and easy to get in tune with what they wanted. And the staff, it's one of the greatest staff in the world. There's people here that's been working here for over 40 years. So, I feel humbled and I feel very, very happy. And I think that it's a matter of energy when the customers see that the customer and the staff see that the person that manages the place, comes in with that kind of mentality, they're a little more open to help you out. And I got very lucky to be helped out from some of the senior servers that were here. And that's how I got my in.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, this is so true. Very true. And so you mentioned the family who owns Musso and Frank Grill. So is it, the same family that opened it in 1919? So what is the origin of this restaurant?
No, I'll tell you the story because it's interesting.
Yes.
So basically, Musso and Frank opened his door in 1919 with a different name, was Frank's Cafe. It was opened by this Frank Toulet person that was a restaurateur. And right after, he got together with a chef that was called Mr. Musso, Joseph Musso, and they decided to change the name to Musso and Franks. Now, the family that owns it, as per today, actually got the ownership of the restaurant in 1927. It's not even 10 years from when the restaurant opened.
That's
and
right.
It happened that this gentleman, Mr. Musso, very similar name, immigrated from Italy. He was working for Fiat in Torino, and he really didn't want to stay in Italy because at the time there was the war, there was the fascist era. It wasn't a happy period. So he decided to emigrate to United States. And he opened, I think, what it was a mixture between a mechanical shop and a body shop, because he was coming from that experience. And then he decided with a business partner, another Italian, a gentleman named Carissimi, to purchase Musso and Frank that was for sale. So they purchased Musso in 1927, and since 1927, the restaurant has been in the same family because Mr. Musso had one daughter. So Mr. Musso ran it first, the daughter ran it after. So the daughter had three daughters, and the three daughters are, now the third generation that are still alive. And they are on the board of Musso and Frank. And the fourth generation, that is actually my direct boss, and Mr. Mark Echeverria is the COO and CFO, and Mark's dad is the CEO, Mr. John Echeverria. So as you can tell, it's being passed on in the family. The Echeverria family actually got full control of the restaurant in 2010 because Mr. Musso and Mr. Carissimi ran it, together for a very long time. But, around 2006, 7, and 8, the Miss Rose, that was Mr. Musso's daughter, died. And there wasn't really anybody to manage the restaurant properly. So they decided to buy the interest of the second family that was at that point very detached in operations and acquire full control of Musso and Frank's. So the restaurant has been in the family since 1927. And today, the same family, it's basically the board of directors, and they're very, very keen in maintaining, what Musso and Frank means to the city, what Musso and Frank represents, and very, very proudly, keep it as a crown jewel in the family. It's quite interesting, yeah. And, Musso sees a lot of love from a lot of people. And we had a very bad moment during the pandemic because we closed for a year and a half. And
did you completely close the restaurant? So you didn't even do any takeouts?
We did a little bit of takeout in the beginning, but it wasn't really working because our product, it's made of different parts. And one of the parts was coming to Musso. I mean, steak doesn't travel very well.
Right.
So we decided to close, and, we reopened just out of the sheer willpower of the family. They injected a lot of energy and money and funds in keeping it open. Imagine that throughout the whole pandemic, they continue paying for health insurance for all the employees.
Oh my God.
Out of their own pocket. So the family, it's really incredible. They treat their employees in a way that I've never seen in any other restaurant, any other restaurant group that, I work for or I work with. It's really different here.
Oh, that's beautiful. What an amazing story, And you say it's a family restaurant, but the way you have described, it's just a family. That's the way they treat the people. And it's fascinating. Wow. No wonder they have survived for all these years and through the pandemic. And this is an incredible story.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessed restaurant.
Yes.
And there's so many different parts to the recipe of why Musso and Frank's is so successful that we could talk for hours. Right.
No, for sure. Well, I was going to ask you what sets Musso and Frank Grill apart from other restaurants in the area. And, what you just shared seems like this will be the main thing that sets it apart. So, like being, such a family of people who work there, and the owners who are so generous with their employees. And it feels that the restaurant is filled with warmth and kindness and generosity. And I'm sure the food is extremely delicious there as well.
Yes, definitely. All this love and care that the family has for the restaurant reflects in the style of service and product that we offer. Musso, you see what sets Musso apart from other restaurants, right? So Musso hasn't changed much. The menu that we serve today as items on the menu, they still go back to the 20s.
Wow.
We've been serving chicken pot pie on Thursday since the 1920s. We've been having sand-ups on the menu since the 1920s. We have short ribs as a feature on Saturday since 1932. It's, we want to really preserve certain heritage that we think it's very important to our culture. And, imagine that Musso and Frank has got 3 dining rooms now. The old room, because when Musso opens, he opens next door to where we are now. We are at 6667, but we moved on 6667 in 1934. And that's called the old room today. And that's the room where the grill is. So the grill has been there for 75 years. And we still grill the steaks on the same piece of metal that it's, 75 years old.
That is historic.
So it's got all that seasoning. It's got all that, grilling time on it. And we grill on mesquite wood, always the same mesquite. It's very special. We serve the steaks au jus like they were served in the 20s. So we never change our recipe for quality. And most importantly, we keep the quality the best that we can. To me, it's top notch. Obviously, we don't really compromise on quality in any way. And, in 1955, they expanded and they have the room that now it's called the New Room. That is actually not new because it's from 55, right? But it's new if you look at the old room that is from the 30s. And there's the room where today you can find the iconic bar. When Musso opens in this specific location, the bar was guarded in a back room that was called the writer room, because Musso and Frank was positioned next to the American Guild of Writers. So in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, all these writers that were coming to Hollywood from the East Coast in order to find a place where to sell their stories. I don't know, Tennessee Williams or Aldous Huxley, all these people that would, eventually, sell the screenplays and make movies. Obviously, they would come and complain because the people that bought the screenplays butchered their stories. And they were coming to complain at American Guild of Writers. And then they came to Musso for a drink because they were so upset.
Aww.
So Musso's bar is called the Writers' Room because all these writers, famous literary writers, Fitzgerald, Chandler, they're all regulars here at the bar and drank for ages. Chandler wrote his books, this famous Philip Marlowe detective, in one specific booth in the New Room. Funny enough, it's the same booth where today Michael Connelly comes and have dinner, because we consider Michael Connelly, the author of the Bosch novels, or the Bosch series. We consider him the modern Raymond Chandler, and he sits in the same booth as Raymond Chandler sat. So, as you can see, Musso and Frank, it's kind of the epicenter of a certain cultural life during the 40s and the 50s, and then the golden era of Hollywood explode. So all the stars, for example, we have the Marilyn Monroe booth that is called Marilyn Monroe booth because she sat there. There was a booth when she came in.
Wow.
And I know how much you like Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
I remember a visit to her house together.
Yes.
And Marilyn was coming all the time. There's a beautiful picture of her and her husband at the time, the baseball player. What's his name? You know better.
Yes, Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio sitting at one of our booths, and one of the most famous picture. But, we have the Orson Welles booth where Orson Welles used to come and sit. We have the Rolling Stones booths where when the Rolling Stones are in town, they always come and sit at that specific booth. We have the Charles Bukowski booth. We have the Steve McQueen booth. I mean, I can continue forever. But
oh my gosh, so probably every booth in your restaurant has a name.
Not every booth, but, there's a lot of those particular guests that wanted to sit in this particular booth. One of the most famous is Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, of course.
Charlie Chaplin used to come with his horse from the studios, that now it's the Henson studio, to have dinner in Musso, and he would sit at the only booth with the window because he hitched his horse over there. So while he was having lunch or dinner, he could look at his horse. And he was always with Rodolfo Valentino or with Douglas Fairbank and Mary Pickford, and it was this classic hangout for them. But again, those are stories from the 20s and 30s, but this story continued to this day.
Yes.
Another example, usually we don't talk about current celebrities because we're very keen on protecting everybody's privacy here. That's why there's no many pictures in Musso. We have a strict no picture policy.
Of course.
But Johnny Depp, that you probably know, you listen to know who he is, when he started, we used to come to Musso and see a very specific booth that was next to a phone booth, because in Musso we have phone booths, but we still have phone booths. We left it there, and he would give on his business card the telephone number of the phone booths. So he would sit there all day, and when he got a phone call, he would get up and pick up the phone from the phone booths. And Miss Rose would leave Johnny sitting down that was a little bit broke with a cup of coffee and leave him there just out of a niceness for this nice guy. To this day, Johnny still comes back, and it's a great friend of the restaurant.
Oh my God. So do you think it's still possible to call him in that phone booth?
I don't know. We find an old business card from John, from from his old times.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's a very good friend of the restaurant. He's a very nice guy. So those are some stories. As you can see, I span from the 20s to today's day.
Right.
But Musso is a magic place for sure.
So it is absolutely incredible, how this restaurant was able to preserve and maintain its historic ambience and decor. And how does the restaurant manage to balance its classic style with modern updates and renovations? Are there any of those at all?
So the only updates that we do, it's to certain recipe. Because in the 20s and 30s, people's taste was slightly different the way they ate. So we have our executive chef, Mr. J.P. Amato, that actually is the third executive chef in the whole history of Musso and Frank. Musso and Frank only had 3 executive chefs. And the original one, the one that opened, it was Mr. Jean Roux, a French chef, lasted for many, many years, over 55 years at Musso and Frank's. And Chef JP is the third chef. And one of his jobs was, to put the modern touch on those dishes that we have on the menu. So we always look at, what can make a dish better, right? What can make something tastier or nicer. And chef, tends to revisit this recipe for modern palate. So we don't fall in the category of say, oh, you go to Musso and Frank, you're gonna eat something that was cooked in the 20s, and that's not very appealing sometimes. When you come to Musso, everything on the menu is updated. So you have a truffle mac and cheese, right, instead of regular mac and cheese or something like that.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. So the only updates that you do implement are just in regard to the menu, but nothing else.
No, we don't change the inside. When something breaks, we have a prop master from the movies that comes and rebuild the part that's been broken exactly that was the way before. When I started working at Musso, Musso has this very, very, traditional wallpaper that's been there since they opened. So the wallpaper in the old room, it's from 1934. And some of this wallpaper was basically, it needed help. It needed to be restored. To restore the wallpaper, instead of changing the wallpaper, I called up a friend that it's actual art restorer. They restore ancient art, and they came and restore like they would restore a painting, our wallpaper.
Oh my God. That is wild.
Yeah, this to give you the idea of the level of detail that we put into maintaining, our tradition. This is wallpaper that's got the smoke from Humphrey Bogart, inside. It's yellow from the cigarette that Steve McQueen smoked in there. So it's, to us, it's an asset. To us, everything that's inside the restaurant, that it's so incredibly fascinating. We don't want to change it. We don't want to make it new. We want to preserve it as much as we can.
Yes.
Same spirit. Because when you walk into Musso and Frank, it's like walking into a time machine.
Yes. I was just going to say that probably to replace certain items that got broken, you have to do this time travel, like Back to the Future, and get a piece of whatever was broken from the past.
We have people that do exactly that, maybe without the time machine. But
wow, that is absolutely incredible to have this kind of an experience. It's like a museum, but it's a living museum. You can still, go there and experience the food and be surrounded with everything that has endured, the time for so long. Wow.
Absolutely.
That is so special. Well, Andrea, do you know any favorite dishes of maybe like some of the celebrities that you mentioned, either from the past or from the present? Because you did say that the only new things that you implement, they have to do with the menu. But do you know any favorite dishes of any famous people?
Of course, we can give you a couple. I can take Charlie Chaplin's favorite was grilled lamb kidneys. And Keith Richards, the guitar player from the Rolling Stones' favorite, it's liver and onions. Those are their famous favorites. Or Anthony Bourdain, when he used to come here used to have the chicken pot pie.
Wow. And you still have all of those dishes on the menu?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. I noted grilled lamb kidneys. That sounded very delicious.
Well, if you like kidneys, they're good.
Wow. Very, very.
It's not proper modern dish, but it's very, very delicious.
Well, in memory of Charlie Chaplin, I'm sure it would be appropriate.
We used to eat it all the time.
Wow. How interesting. So, have there been any memorable moments in Musso and Frank Grill's history? Maybe there were some special events, or maybe there were some certain cultural milestones that we haven't talked of yet.
Well, it's hard to pinpoint a special moment because Musso and Frank's it's been here for so long that so many things happen in here that it's very difficult to pick something.
Mm-hmm.
Musso and Frank's, it's very well known because different generations come together to share their special moment here, right? So it's not uncommon to find sitting at the same table 4 different generations: grandma, their sons, their kids, their nephew, everybody together. So this is valid for not just regular people that comes all the time, but also for celebrities.
Yes.
So the family is of celebrities doing the same thing. And one of the things that is very important for us is that we don't allow paparazzi, we don't allow pictures. So they know that when they come to Musso, they are undisturbed. So
yes.
After an Oscar, we have an Oscar party of a famous actor. It comes over here. After a star induction ceremony, there's a party at Musso and Frank. After something very important, a particular director got, accolade with, they come to Musso and Frank. There's so many of this. It's hard to say, the Declaration of Independence was, wrote inside Musso and Frank. That didn't happen. But definitely is a special occasion place.
Yes, that makes total sense. Yes.
And it was very interesting when we celebrated 100 years in 2019. We closed for 5 days and we only had hosted parties by us, and all the most loved of our customers and regulars and celebrities were all invited. And there was a sight to behold those 4 nights. It was pretty interesting.
Beautiful, beautiful. And my last question to you, Andrea. So what do you think are some of the most important lessons that Musso and Frank Grill has learned over the years? And what do you think will be the restaurant's lasting legacy in the culinary world?
Well, I think that one of the most important lessons that Musso has learned is to be consistent, to never be scared by the times, and to always be concentrated on the priorities and their intrinsic value that Musso and Frank always has at the core, that it's honesty, integrity, loyalty, quality, all these 4 values that always been at the core of conducting business in Musso and Frank. We never compromise quality. We never compromise loyalty. We never compromise integrity. We always are a place where you come in and you can, be absolutely sure that you're going to find somebody that will take good care of you, no matter what. And sometimes in the restaurant world that is today, those are things that are not too in fashion, especially when you think about new restaurant that open with this chef or with other chef, but there's no soul inside this restaurant. There's a very small. Here is different. So, protecting the legacy, protecting the values, protecting our relationship. We are a very big on relationship. We are relationship oriented. The relationship the family has with their team, the relationship that we have with our vendors, the relationship we have with our guests, generation to generation. And this is what made Musso and Frank possible to be what Musso and Frank it is today, what always been, because it's always been considered this particular place. One of the reasons why Musso and Frank it's in so many movies, in so many stories, in so many literary books. It's because it is an important landmark for all this reason.
Yes.
Last movie that Quentin Tarantino filmed, as the first 20 minutes filmed inside Musso and Frank, and he says Musso and Frank. It's not just a location. And the reason why Quentin wanted to film here was because Quentin, when he was a kid, was brought here by his parents to have lunch or dinner at Musso and Frank's. So that's how much he meant to him, and he meant enough to have, this tradition depicted in his last movie.
Wow. This is so beautiful, Andrea. And the way you have just described the restaurant is so inspirational. And it can actually be such a good lesson for anybody to follow in their own life. Because once you develop like this honesty, integrity, loyalty, and, quality, with whatever you do, then your commitment to excellence, it will definitely lead you to a very good life.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this incredible restaurant. And I hope more people will come and visit and will taste Old Hollywood and will experience Old Hollywood at its best, in our modern age.
My absolute pleasure. Whenever you want to come, just you know where to find me.
Yes. Thank you so much, Andrea. I will see you soon.
Make sure to call me because we booked 3 weeks in advance with reservation.
I can imagine. I will definitely call you, and I will already know what I want to try.
Excellent. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
You take care.
You too. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed experiencing Musso and Frank Grill with my special guest, Andrea Scuto. Please press the like button, follow, and share your feedback for the podcast. Your time and support are greatly appreciated. Next time, our journey will be to Mid-Wilshire. If you cannot find me, I will be right next to the urban lights at LACMA, one of the most photographed places in Los Angeles. See you there.
In the mood for California, feel the soul of Old Hollywood.